Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everything in between. Welcome to another episode of the DC Podcast. Here with me, we have two writers, and we're going to be talking about writing, not just writing in DC, but writing in general and some of the shit going on in Hollywood. This is, of course, the library, Richard, Dick, whatever the fuck you want to call me. I don't really care. And if Susan, oh wait, never mind, she's not the CEO of YouTube anymore. If whoever the hell is the CEO of YouTube now wants to say fuck your video, because, I'm cursing, well, fuck you too. Anyways, with me, we have two writers. One, everyone should know. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Lex, once again.
Hi, I'm Lex of Power. I'm a writer for the DC interviews, and I've done a couple of other audio dramas here, and we got a couple in the pipeline right now, and working, and we're churning them out, and I'm pretty proud of them. I'm very excited to be doing the podcast on writing today, since it's one of my favorite things to do.
Yeah.
Yep. And, of course, with me is actually a very special guest. I call him Space Wiz, because that's what he's called on YouTube. But you guys probably know him as something different, and he's from the channel Audio Anomaly. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Space.
Oh yes, hey, it's great to be here. Really excited for this episode of the podcast. Yeah, very exciting times indeed, exciting topics, exciting people all around, and an exciting channel to boot as well, right here on this channel we got right here. But yes, I am the owner and operator of Audio Anomaly. It's a channel where we make audio dramas and stuff like that. We have our own little podcast too, but our main focus is the audio dramas. Yeah, we've got some Marvel stuff cooking over there. We got some DC stuff, mostly just Batman stuff, but maybe in the future maybe some other DC stuff too. But and yeah, we have some original stuff as well. Just a few little bits and ends here and there. But yeah, it's really great to be on here. Super excited to be a part of this channel as well. It's a super amazing channel with a lot of creative and awesome people and stuff, and I've even got some stuff cooking on here as well. Yes.
Yep. You want to go ahead and be more specific on what you're cooking?
Yes, yeah, I'm making some steaks right here. No, I'm yeah, I've got we're working on a Batman Beyond series. It's gonna be a lot of fun. And I got the first episode written. I believe casting is starting very soon, yes. So
Should
it's
be
gonna be
starting
a blast.
by the time this video comes up. It should be already up and open.
There
It's
you
going to
go.
be open for about a month and a half.
Yeah.
Make sure we get the best possible actors for
Very best.
everything.
World's
we
finest,
have.
if you will. Yeah.
Yep. But yeah, we have basically two heads of projects, but we also have three writers. Because Space Wiz does, for Batman Beyond, writes for me, and for on his channel, I'm writing Spider-Man Noir.
Yes.
So we, both of us write for each other. We're both each other's bosses. This depends on which server we're in.
That's true.
So right now I'm the big boss, but in his,
Yes,
if
big
I
boss.
go on his podcast, he's the big boss. So you're gonna get a lot of different perspective, and then you have Lex, who's basically just, basically just the little runt that I carry around with me.
Master writer Lex over here.
Very funny.
Yes, it is funny. But we're mostly going to be just talking about writing in general, the good, the bad, the ugly, some tips for those of you who want to become writers, and we're going to be talking a lot of shit. So, what do you guys want to start with? Do you guys want to start with like inspiration, tips, or do you just want to talk shit about Velma?
I think we'll eventually get to Velma. Maybe let's talk about our inspirations first.
Yeah, that's a good starting point. Yeah.
So for me, some of my biggest inspiration has been like Teen Titans, Justice League, more than Batman the Animated Series. I grew up with Justice League more. Specifically, the 2 episodes, The Enemy Below, has been like some of the biggest inspirations to me when I was younger. But the current like biggest inspirations from like yesteryear for me, it's just like character writing and everything I do is actually some video games. Persona 4 and Danganronpa series. And then you have Persona 2, which became even a bigger inspiration to me. But yeah, both of these I found in high school, and both of these changed the way I wrote. But if you want to get beyond that, just as a creator in general, My biggest inspiration is Ruby from Rooster Teeth.
Oh,
At
hey.
least the first 3 seasons. Everything else is shit after that.
Oh man, I've only seen the first season, so
Yeah, the big thing about the first few seasons of Ruby for me is I just love how fun it is.
Yeah.
And I love how it's just honestly just feels like one person's passion.
Yeah,
There are all other people who are passionate about it, and I know that, but just Monty in general just has been a big inspiration for me. Even if I'm not an animator, I became dedicated to being a character designer. I've dedicated myself to be a world builder, a writer, all this because of him. And then after that, it was Persona and Danganronpa that helped further my love for writing and for things that are well written.
Oh yeah. Good stuff right there. Love it.
Yeah. Those are my biggest inspirations.
Yeah.
Next, your turn.
Well, I'd say some of my inspirations one stemmed from Batman the Animated Series.
Oh yeah.
I think I would also have to give credit to Gravity Falls.
Mm.
Like I was a big Disney Channel fan growing up. I loved the way that animation on Disney Channel was written more than live action stuff.
Yeah.
Which I'll probably get into a rant later on. but so I also was influenced over the past few years by a couple of video games. Like for me, I really love The Last of Us game.
Oh, yeah.
I love it so much. I'm kind of happy that the show is just taking inspiration is just doing the game, but just expanding on a couple of things that they didn't touch on in the game. And I was like, that's actually a good idea. Truth be told, I fear for season 2, but that's a topic for another day. I would also am a big fan of God of War, and I've been currently playing God of War Ragnarok, and just think it's so well written. I will admit I didn't play any other God of War games before that, and it was my introduction, but it definitely makes me want to go back and play them. I know they're from a different age, but I still want to play them. Hey, I played the original Silent Hill 2, and I really enjoyed that. So, and also a lot of my inspiration for like movies and screenwriting came from a lot of like movie news. Like I was more sucked into it the moment I heard Ben Affleck left the Batman. And I was like, well, who's going to be doing the next Batman movie? And was learning about that, learning about screenwriters, and just paid attention to that more and more and more. And I always just looked to the writing and watched writing YouTube channels more and more and more. Like one of my favorite YouTube channels is Filmento.
Oh, yeah, Filmento's great.
He's really good. I haven't watched any of his videos recently. It's been a while, but he like showed me how to like write things properly, and I just was like, this is really, really cool.
I think writing YouTubers are really great, but I also think reviewers are actually really good. If you're a writer or creative, I do think looking up reviewers is a good idea. You can pick and choose which one you like, which one you more resonate with, but don't pick one that agrees with you on everything.
Yeah.
Like for me, Linkara, I don't agree with him on everything, but I do generally think highly of some of his opinions. Some of them, I think some of them are stupid. I'm not trying to throw shade, but I generally mean that. I don't agree on Linkara on everything, and Casualty Comics is another one. I think Casualty Comics is a good one in general since she tries to stay objective about everything. But reviewers are also good because what gets you into is a reviewer mindset after you're done writing, and then you go back and look and you can see it from a reviewer's point of view.
Oh yeah, and by the way, Sasha just had her baby recently, so if Casually Comics is out there listening to this, congratulations on the birth of your child. You'll be a good,
so sweet.
be a great
what
mom.
Is this, the fourth one?
Oh, she's had another kid?
Yeah, this is not her first kid.
Oh,
I
I
think
didn't
it's like
know
her.
that. I'm new.
I think it's like her second or third. I don't remember.
Still,
But
congratulations nonetheless.
yeah, still congratulations. Space Wiz.
Oh yes, yeah. I've got a lot of really random and seemingly not connected inspirations, but of course, like Lex as well. I grew up with well, I don't know if Lex grew up with Batman the Animated Series, but I also drew a lot of inspiration from Batman the Animated Series too. Um, and yeah, Avatar: The Last Airbender. I grew up with that as well. That was definitely a
Oh, yeah.
major inspiration for me too.
Watched a little bit of it when I was a kid, and then when I got into college, I watched it in full, and then it became my
Yes.
favorite show. One of my favorite
Yes.
shows.
I watched that shit religiously. I watched that from episode 1
Same.
all the way to the end. I kept
Yeah.
up with that shit.
Me too. I watch it like every other year, pretty much these days, or sometimes every year even too. So yeah, that's definitely a major inspiration for me. And what really got me into writing was actually The Great Gatsby. Reading that in school, just like really loving that. I was like, I want to write more seriously now. So that's what really inspired me. And Matt Fraction and David Aja's Hawkeye was also a really big inspiration for me too.
Hey,
That's like one of
that
the
book
best
is
comic
so.
books ever written. Yeah.
And so
So
we
good.
can say it on YouTube now. That book is fucking amazing. I love that
Yes.
run so much.
One of the best ever. Period.
I'm
Yes,
collecting
Sir.
I'm collecting all of Matt Fraction's Iron Man.
Oh.
If we're talking about inspirations from like comic books, it's Jeff Johns for me and his
yeah.
work on Green Lantern.
That's some good stuff.
Darkest Night specifically was such a fun ride. I fucking loved it. But I think Bakuman is probably much more of a like inspiration of just like this is what it takes to be a writer.
Hmm.
If you don't have it, you won't make it type series. And I was just like, okay, this is what I need to have. All right, fuck it. Let's go.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, you were saying, Space Wiz?
Sorry.
Oh no, yeah, that's pretty much my inspirations there. Batman the Animated Series, Avatar: The Last Airbender, Hawkeye, and Great Gatsby, and I guess Spider-Man 2 as well is pretty influential for me as well. I watched that a lot as a kid, so fantastic.
Yeah, like Spectacular Spider-Man was so good.
Oh, Spectacular Spider-Man is
Was.
also fantastic. That's like the best.
I heard
Spider-Man ever.
I heard he's gonna be in the new movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Heard he's gonna
That's
be in
cool.
the new movie. They shown art and everything. He's
Yeah.
on the poster.
Oh.
Hopefully that like brings interest back. Like
Ooh,
they have
season
Josh
3.
Keaton voice him for like a brief moment or something like
Oh.
that. And I hope they just get like, already well-known voice actors. Like I hate when they like big animated stuff and then they're like, it's Nick Jonas as Spider-Man. I'm like, no, I want
No.
Josh Keaton or Yuri
Yeah.
Lowenthal. Yuri Lowenthal is also
Ooh,
fantastic.
Yuri. Yes. Very true.
Everyone has their own history with Yuri Lowenthal as a voice actor, though. That's
Yeah,
a funny
Ben
thing.
10. Yeah.
Because
And 10.
for me, Yuri, I remember Yuri from Persona 4 who plays Yusuke.
Oh.
That same motherfucker plays the main character in Persona 3.
Hey.
So I have dubbed 3-kun.
He's also in Arcane for like 3 episodes.
He's there for what?
until he wasn't.
Yeah, it's you have one wonderful voice actors that we also grew up with too, but definitely writing wise, I'm much more of a manga guy, I'll admit.
Huh.
I take a lot of my inspirations from the East, but I also take I take a lot of inspiration from here in the West as well, because one of my favorite novels is The Count of Monte Cristo.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. But yeah, so I think we should just go ahead and move on to
one more
writing
thing.
tips.
Since someone brought up a book, I was like, I grew up reading the Percy Jackson book series.
Oh, yeah.
I love those books. They're very dear to my heart, and they're like one of the first like book series that I read in like full. And then reread them a little later in life, and it was just like I still love these and think these hold up pretty well. And I also am a big fan of the Odyssey.
Ooh. Ooh, yeah. good
People are
stuff.
going to murder me for this, but for me, the longest book series I've read, like novels, is Harry Potter,
That's understandable.
and I still like the books. I still like the books.
Yeah.
Is there some flaws in it? Yeah, most definitely. But do I think it's shit? It's poorly written? No.
Yeah, I mean, at least, I mean, don't try to take from the J.K. Rowling school of writing, where every page ends with like a cliffhanger, like a fake out, where it's like, little did Harry Potter know that he would be dead. Turns the page of the next chapter inside.
Yeah. The J.K. The thing I liked about the books was that it wasn't just focused on the plot. I actually genuinely enjoyed that.
Yeah.
I
The
enjoyed
little
it. Took
character
some
moments
time.
and stuff, yeah.
Yeah. It took its time to show some of the slower side of Hogwarts. Because it really felt when shit went down, shit went down.
Oh, yeah.
But
It's on hard.
as I said before, I think, I have my opinion about Harry Potter. People have theirs. Any last mentions, anyone, before we move on to writer's tips?
I also grew up with. I've also been getting into more comics as like the years went on, like more in high school. Recently, I've been reading Preacher by Garth Ennis.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my god, it's so good. I was reading it last night when I had spare time at work, and I in the middle out loud I said, Garth Ennis, you disgust me and move me at the same time. How do you
That's
do that
Garth
with
for you.
Preacher? I mean, I'm not. I mean, he doesn't do that with the Boys comic. That's too grotesque just to be grotesque. I prefer the show.
Yeah, fair.
Um,
Some good stuff.
any last things, Space Wiz?
Yeah, the picture of Dorian Gray as well is also really great too. Definitely
I
recommend
really
that if
want to read
anyone's
that
looking for
one.
some good literature. Yeah, Oscar Wilde's fantastic.
I'm just writing down notes of stuff to read.
Gotta get some reading to catch up.
Gotta read this, I gotta read that. But yeah, so I'm just going to go ahead and move on to tips. These are going to be from like different perspectives. One of the biggest things in general, I think writers need to understand. I think Space Wiz can agree with me as like the head honcho. You don't always get to write what you want to write. It's not all about your own original characters. Sometimes being a writer is trying to bring to life someone else's idea.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably one of the biggest like traps I think no writer really talks about that I've seen on YouTube. No one mentions this, and it's sad because it feels like it's the most important thing for writers to know is that you're not always going to be writing your own characters. Sometimes you're going to be writing someone else's character. Sometimes you're going to be writing a character you don't give a shit about.
Yeah.
But it's still, you still have to, and you have to be professional about it.
Yeah, it sort of allows you to, get inside somebody else's mind if you have a different character you don't really care about or whatever. You really have to find the passion and really do them justice to the best of your ability. And it challenges you. Maybe you'll like this character more after you've written them, but it gives you a chance to, if you sort of drawn towards a specific type of character or whatever, like, oh, I only like the hero, like the really good hero, like the Luke Skywalker sort of guy. It gives you the chance to look at some other characters too, some other types of characters, other stories or something like that you have to research and stuff, and it can help you. It can really help you grow as a writer and really challenge you to write different things than you usually do. So I think it's a sort of a good practice to do stuff like that.
Yeah.
On your
going off of that too is you gotta be flexible with your writing.
Yeah.
Too, because sometimes you want to do something, but it's not going to fit in with the rest of what especially if you're not going to be the only writer working on these characters.
Yeah.
If someone's going to come back after you, you gotta keep that in mind. You gotta keep that in mind as well. And make sure you try to wrap everything you want up as much as you can, because the other writer might not give a shit about the story you were fucking telling. But you also need to wrap it up, but leave it open-ended enough for them to come in and have an actual story to tell.
Yeah, It's all gotta fit the character. Yeah.
Happens with comic
Yeah.
books literally all the time. Sometimes,
Also
sometimes a
technical.
writer will do an entire thing, and you're like, "This is great," and then when they're done, the next writer will just ignore it and then do their own thing. It sucks if you read it in like continuation, but if you read it by itself, it works. But you know that's
So major writing tip: don't ignore what's been done before.
Yeah.
Which goes into my biggest writing tip and my biggest pet peeve of Hollywood writing: do your research.
I mean, unless it was bad, then you can ignore it. Like if it was like, I don't want to bring up this. This is really bad and awful.
Yeah, no,
I want to forget it.
That doesn't. Doing your research does not mean doing every single thing that was done before.
Yeah.
Take a look at She-Hulk. One of the biggest problems with it was the trial scenes where they were in trial, and part of that is because the writers immediately said, "We don't know how to write, scenes in that." Trial scene is like you guys could talk to a lawyer.
What are you talking about?
At least Daredevil did that. They got pretty close.
Talk to actual lawyers. Do some research on law and figure out how things actually work. Do your research instead of just being like, "Oh, we don't know how to do that, so it doesn't matter." That just shows you don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah. And hey, here's a good example of like people doing their research on not just like lore, but like on just like science and how like things work. Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul.
Ew.
Yeah, and
like
so with Breaking Bad, they get their shit right. Like they are ironclad when it comes to that stuff. Yes, they leave out one or two ingredients in meth because they don't want people to make their own meth at home because
that's illegal.
Yeah.
Because that's but aside from that, like it's great where they're like there's a train scene where they try to like steal a liquid and pump it in here. They're like, how does this work? And they explain it, and a scientist came in, watched it, confirmed it was like, yeah, that's how you would do it.
Yeah.
Another thing is like in Better Call Saul, how they do things like legally. Yes, Saul is a scummy lawyer that like bends the law, but they remember a lot of stuff that happens in law. They're like, maybe we could use this. We'll get like researchers in here and do stuff like that. And most of it is ironclad. Like Legal Eagle has broken down the lawyer scenes in that and in Daredevil. And he's like, for the most part, this is actually pretty accurate, aside from like you can't monologue, but since the show, that's what you gotta do.
Yeah, dramatic effect.
Yeah, I'm not saying there's no leeway, but you at least need to know enough for that way you can have that leeway to begin with.
And they actually they have a person that literally watches Breaking Bad like every single year, like just to keep notes and like make sure the lore is consistent too with Better Call Saul. So that's also important too, consistency.
I want to ask you, Space Wiz, as like a director, what's like your personal like pet peeve of writers? Like the writers who are working under you, what's like a pet peeve of yours that if they aren't willing to do this, then it's not like immediately kick out, but something you want to talk to them about.
Yeah, that's you sort of have to. For me, definitely, continuity is important, and not just story continuity, but character continuity too. That you have to sort of adhere to, what's already in place. That you can add new stuff to it, of course, and sort of shape it the way that you want to. But when you include characters that have already been done before, you have to make sure that they feel like those characters, and not just like your own version of that character and stuff. So I think that's definitely something that is very important to keep in mind, especially when working with, a larger series that's already, in effect, that if something feels off, then it could affect the rest of the series and could make it stand out in a negative way. So I think it's important to get the characters right. Of course, breaking continuity is also not good, but I think the most important thing for like, to keep in mind with writing like big stuff is to sort of, of course, keep the continuity in mind, but that's also what, the people that are sort of moving the universe are for, like to like say, oh, okay, this is cool, but this breaks continuity. We got to do this instead. But I think the most important, and as an individual writer should think about, is definitely characters and making sure that stays consistent. as best as possible.
Yeah, yeah, and that's coming from like people who are like heads of projects who have like their own universes too.
Mhm.
Because you have like your own Marvel universe, I have my own like DC universe.
Yeah.
And we have our own universes, so in our head we have like a universe Bible. And our main thing is to try and make sure everything, because like I know you're a lot more hands off than I am. I'm a little bit more hands on. I really want to make sure. Everything's good.
Yeah.
Everything's well written as possible. Because not we can't pump. Not everything we write is well written. Not everything we produce is the best written thing in the world. I try my best to make sure everything's at least good.
Yeah. It's valiant effort. It's going well so far. You've got a lot of great interviews and great therapy sessions and stuff on the channel. So yeah, very.
Only would say so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one thing too is just for a writer is that never think of yourself as a good writer, but never think of yourself as the best writer.
Always room to improve. Yeah.
Even in your own series, because I'm the head of this project. And I've written some things I am generally proud of. I think the White Rabbit episode is one of my favorite things I've ever created, ever. And it, because I put in so much cool stuff and so much foreshadowing of what's going to be coming up later. And I honestly, I started a mystery that I doubt MatPat can figure out without me telling him. And I'm proud of that, but I still don't think I'm the best writer, even out of the writers I have here in my server, or even the best writers, because in season 1, the guy who wrote the Riddler episode, Adam Smith, he made that all by himself. And to me, that's the best written thing we have on the channel. And I think he's probably the best writer out of all of us, because he generally keeps in mind continuity and everything. I would love to work with him again. It's just a shame he's been so busy.
Yeah.
But to me, the biggest thing, pet peeve for me personally, is that inflexibility. Because as I mentioned before, sometimes something's not going to work because it's going to screw over something that might happen in the future. And if I'm someone who you can argue with about stuff. I will have that argument with you. And if I lose, I lose. But if you're going to debate me, you got to debate the point.
Yeah.
You have to debate every single point I make. And because I'm actively going to debate every single point you make.
Yeah.
That's how a debate works.
Exactly.
And that's how we get to the best conclusion. And being inflexible basically is ignoring the point. It's just like, well, this is my vision. And my counter is like point A, point B, point C. You only mention point A, but you don't mention D or C.
Yeah.
And that's where some problem ends up lying. And again, this is part of it. It's just the inflexibility. But anyone would tell you that who I hired, one that I sat them through a mini interview, and one of the first questions I ask is, are you willing to do research?
Yeah, that's important. Yeah, it's good to have a steady, firm hand on a project to make sure it goes the way that you want to go. So yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and to me, research is one of the biggest things, because if, like the White Rabbit, I did more research than just on the character, since the character isn't much of a character in the comics, so there's nothing really much to do. So what did I do? I do some research on characters similar to it. So I took some inspirations from Soul Eater a little bit, and I went back to Matt, who her boss is, and I take a look at the rest of the Wonderland gang. I'm like, okay, let's create everyone together and create this continuity that makes sense. I did research on the original Alice in Wonderland book.
Oh, yeah. Good one.
I did a lot of research on the way to make her talk. I did a lot of research in general to make that work. And, and because of that, people still, I've seen people mention on my channel that They absolutely love my White Rabbit because I did that research.
Yeah, I know that's one of our writers, Layla. I know that's one of her favorites. So yeah, there you go.
Yeah, Layla loves the White Rabbit.
Oh, it's perfect. But yeah, it's
Yeah,
good to do research. Good to do very in-depth research too. Yeah, very, very important.
Yeah, because when you do in-depth research on a character, that's when you can truly create your own version.
Yeah, you already know what's been done before, so you have a good idea of who the character is.
Yeah, what's been done before, what works, what doesn't, and the biggest thing is you need to understand why people like this thing to begin with, and let's actually fucking start talking shit about Velma.
Here we go.
Because Velma and honestly, I'm going to throw in Birds of Prey.
Oh, the movie?
In this Harley Quinn, Birds of Prey. I'm going to throw this movie in here. Both of these suck for the same fucking reason.
Oh man.
Lex, you're more than welcome to.
Yeah.
You're
please,
more than welcome
please,
to jump in and just.
Yeah.
Let's just talk shit. Let's just talk shit.
Yeah, I will
It's
admit I
me.
have one pet peeve. I didn't know if you wanted me to go next about pet peeves.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah,
Go right ahead.
Okay.
What's your pet peeve?
You might agree with me on this. And I see this in so many places, in the usual places. And some people are like, well, that's to be expected, but it always drives me up the fucking wall. And that is when they undercut character development and character continuity for joke.
Oh my god, yeah.
Oh, fuck that.
I hate that so much. So many sitcoms just like, yes, I know they're sitcoms, they're made to laugh, but like there will be a serious moment that's like actually very touching and very meaningful, and then they'll just like undercut it with like a joke that is like so stupid makes you go, "Oh, that character is an asshole." Hey, but you know what's funny? Like Always Sunny in Philadelphia is one of the best well-written comedies because all the characters are already like terrible people. So when they make jokes, like it's intentional because they're like, well, because these people are not good people, but they're funny. And so like that's the hammer home. But if you're trying to get me to actually like care about these characters and then you just undercut it with a joke that's actually like very mean-spirited, it makes me just go, oh, I don't like that very much. Or when like a serious moment should be happening, like one of the biggest contenders for me is Thor: Love and Thunder. I've never
movie.
disliked an MCU movie. Never. Like, there's been ones where I'm like, it's okay. At least I would be like, it has some redeeming qualities, but Love and Thunder is the one I dislike the most out of all of them. Because it like there should be more serious moments, but they just always undercut it with a joke every literally like 15 seconds, and it drives me up the wall because it's just, and then it makes Thor seem like a brain dead idiot. And like it infuriates me because at least Ragnarok did it tastefully. Meanwhile, Love and Thunder just did it like irrationally, and also that movie and Love and Thunder was also cut down by like 2 hours. It was originally a 4-hour cut, and then they made it under 2 hours, and I'm like, that's too much. You should have just done like a 3-hour cut because maybe the movie would have been better. Maybe it would have been worse, but honestly, I don't see how you could have gotten any worse.
Yeah.
But so it's just, I don't know. I just see it so many places. Like, and that's also my biggest thing with like live action Disney Channel shows. Like just so many Disney Channel sitcoms where like they will throw away character development all for a joke. I love Wizards of Waverly Place. I think it's genuinely a good show. It's just the only thing that it's an A tier show, but the only thing that prevents it from being S tier is one character, and no offense to the actor, this is not his fault. It's Max.
I knew you were gonna say Max. Yeah.
Max is such an idiot. He has no character development. Like Justin gets character development. Alex gets character development. The Russos get character development. Harper grows. Hell, even Zeke, her boyfriend, grows.
I forgot about Zeke.
They all grow except for Max, and he gets nothing. And want to know the most messed up part about it is when they like I think he was filming a movie somewhere, and they did that little girl spell on him. And the little girl didn't act like Max at all. She was like smart and sarcastic. And I'm just like, this isn't even Max. You just made a brand new character because that's how inconsequential Max is to the show. Because Max is an idiot and useless and just like, what the hell? Just but you want to know what the perfect example of a butt monkey character getting character growth is?
What?
Good luck, Charlie. PJ. PJ gets the most character development in that show. He goes from I'm an idiot that plays guitar and doesn't know what he wants to do to college isn't for me. I know where my friends are. I know what I'm good at. I'm a good cook. I'm going to run a food truck, and the food truck is going to be the most unique peanut butter sandwiches you've ever had. And it's successful, and it's good, and he's kind, and he knows where he's going in life. And I'm like, that's amazing.
There it is.
Why can't you do that with more characters?
Yeah, so
Sorry,
since we're going to be talking.
I'm sorry, I'm
Some good
yelling.
examples.
No, we're just going. We're going straight to talking shit. So I'm going to talk shit about Birds of Prey, and one of the biggest problems for me is just how. So the theme of the movie basically is girls rule, boys rule. That's basically the theme of the movie.
Yeah.
Okay, fine, whatever. I'm not the biggest fan of that theme in the world, but fine. The problem is the characters they fucking chose for that movie. It's a fucking insult to these female characters.
Yeah.
Because you have Montoya, Officer Montoya, who in my universe, if Jim Gordon ever fucking retires, Montoya is actually going to be the one who takes over.
It's actually a good idea.
Because she's so well respected in every other version she's in. She's well respected in the police department. But here they just like, oh, no one takes her seriously because she's a woman. I'm like, that is not how she was written. That is not how
also
the
her like
department.
ex-girlfriend, district attorney, is also like a dick to her and doesn't respect her. But I hate that like everyone disrespects Montoya.
Yeah.
Like the police department.
It's just like no. Montoya in one of the first things she's ever done was save Batman.
Yeah. In the POV episode of Batman the Animated Series.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when she's in that episode, when she's asked to give a testimony, Harvey Bullock gives like I'm Batman's the bad guy type story. The new guy tells the new guy story who makes Batman seem like he's supernatural. Montoya's the only one who gave an objective recount of what happened.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And because of that, I naturally respect her for that, and she saved Batman.
Yeah.
Now the message she becomes questioned in the comics, which means she earned the respect of Victor Sage. If I'm not mistaken, she earned his respect. So what the hell are you doing, disrespecting her in this movie and saying it's all about girl power? No, it's not about girl power. Because you decided to pick the worst possible fucking characters for that. Like, Black Canary can hold her own in a fight.
Yeah.
She definitely can. But that's because in most versions of the story, of her backstory, she had a big, strong male role model who taught her how to take down big, strong men. You have Wildcat, who is basically like a father or a stepfather to her. And in the comics, you had a African-American dojo teacher who helped raise her. So adding her into this movie, it's just like a fuck you to her backstory. Well, she she was basically raised by single fathers in most of her iterations. She, mostly didn't grow up with a mother, if I remember correctly. And then you have Huntress. Oh boy, I just like. Again, she does not fit in this movie with the themes because Huntress became Huntress because she saw what Batman was doing and was just like, you know what? The Mafia fucked over my father. I loved my father. I loved my mother. They fucked them over. I'm going to take the Batman route and say fuck you and become a vigilante.
Yeah.
She loved her father, and she had respect for Batman. Both of these being male characters. And then we get to Cassandra Cain, which is The one that infuriates me so
Mhm.
much, I'm trying my best not to fucking shout. Because what they did was they took away one of the most interesting, one of the most unique characters of all time. A girl who could barely talk because her asshole father decided to raise her to only understand physical body language, which should be easy in a fucking movie. We see this shit in Sherlock Holmes, featuring a Marvel hero actor Robbie Downey Jr., where they pull it off that shit, and it's just like, this is what you could have done with Cassandra Cain. But no, you turned her into a female Jason Todd. You made her a Asian female clone of a character that already exists, and it's just infuriates me. And before someone, because I have seen this argument of, well, you're not looking at what it is instead of what it could be. Or is not, no, they're not going to follow the source material all the way. If you're not going to follow the source material, you have to at least try to embody why people love this character. If you're going to use a character, you have to either embody what they love about it, or if you're going to create something new, you need to create something equal to the source material, and this is not equal to the source material. It's nowhere near equal to the source material. And I love Cassandra Cain.
If you're gonna be,
I'm sorry if I'm getting there.
Oh yeah,
No, it's
that's
okay.
fair, yeah.
My thoughts on that is, if you're going to be inaccurate, at least keep the spirit of it alive.
Yeah, and they
Like
didn't.
Batman
they couldn't even keep
'89
the
is
spirit.
very inaccurate, but it keeps the spirit of Batman alive.
Yeah.
But you wonder, the funny thing is, I think this Harley Quinn movie would have worked if they didn't use Birds of Prey. If it was the Gotham City Sirens.
Ah.
Yes, that would have been the time to
Harley-
do it.
Because if you're going to do Girls Rule, Boys Rule, use the Gotham City Sirens. Harley Quinn got fucked over by Joker, who is a dude. Poison Ivy became Poison Ivy because she got fucked over by a dude. So it makes sense that she hates men, and she manipulates them. Then you have Catwoman, who thinks men are idiots and manipulates them.
Aside from Batman,
And-
she's like, he's okay.
That was the exception. And then, if you want a fourth character, you can add the Carpenter.
I was gonna say Roxy Rocket, but that's
You can add Roxy Rocket, but you can also add the Carpenter if you want it. Because in my version, she's Hispanic. Because I honestly thought she was Hispanic in the comics. I didn't find out later. No, she's a blonde. I was just like, well, too late now. That you could have added a backstory to where, how, she kind of got fucked over by men, or she has a grudge against men for one reason or another, and that would be fine because makes sense because none of them. Oh no, she could be disrespected by the broker, who is the guy who basically sells everyone their supervillain layers, and Carpenter is the one that goes in and modifies it. That's the relationship. So you could have that be him taking advantage of her skill, or perhaps make it to where she was like a legal immigrant, and the broker like threatens to send her back, and any chance she disagrees with him. You can do something like that, and it will make the movie more consistent instead of fucking over characters that already exist that became who they were because of the positive male role models. Because Cassandra is also one where she became a vigilante because she saw Batman being Batman. And she, to this day, believes that the bat stands for something. And is one of the most interesting things, and I love that about Cassandra Cain in the comics, but they take everything away in a movie where they don't even use any of the characters right.
Yeah, exactly. You gotta stay true to the characters as best as possible. That you can do new takes, but it has to feel like they're just making the characters, using them for their own means and stuff like that. But I think you have to pay respect to what's been done in the past. You don't have to just do an exact adaptation or replica of what's been done in the past, but you should definitely look to the past as like an example and who these characters are, and like you said before, understand why they're loved and what things maybe didn't quite work out as well and what things did, and take the best of the character and sort of mold the character from there and stuff like that, your own vision, but still trying to keep that original vision at least there in the character, unless you're just like going for complete reinvention, but it has to be for a good reason, I think, to do that.
I'll admit, I'm in my series, I'm fully reinventing the White Rabbit, Walrus, I'm reinventing a lot of the Wonderland game because they don't
Yeah,
have
exactly.
anything.
You gotta add something. Like, you know, if they just stuck with Mr.
But I'm
Freeze in the
still
animated series the way he was, you'd just be like this boring
Yeah.
frozen guy instead of like something interesting, tragic character.
Yeah.
Well, you know what I
and
would
that
have
works
thought?
because they did research. Go on.
I'm sorry. Well, even in like the Suicide Squad movie, I love what they did with Polka Dot Man before, you know, they
Mhm.
killed him.
Yes.
Like, you know what? They should take his like new origin that they made in that movie and then put it in the comics, Mr. Freeze,
Yeah.
Batman animated series style. Then
Oh yeah.
people would be like, "Wow,
Yes.
Polka Dot Man's really cool and interesting." Well, I
Yeah.
know you're not a big fan
Yeah.
of Tom
Polka Dot
King,
Man's
but at
great.
least Tom King made Kite Man cool.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like
I wouldn't have Hell
I have
Yeah if it
my
wasn't for
bone.
Tom King.
Exactly.
I have personal beef with Tom King. I would never forgive him for one of his stories. I would never forgive him for it.
I know what you're talking about. But
I would never. It's like that. It's fucking JoJo's memes where it's just like, I'll never forgive the Japanese for me. It's like, I'll never forgive Tom King. So go ahead and Space Riz, go ahead and talk shit about whatever you want to talk shit about.
Okay, yeah, I totally feel a point that you made earlier about looking at what's been done in the past. I feel like that was like, okay, maybe there was more than just this is the problem, but here we go. Rise of Skywalker. I feel like the reason that, you know, just is because they saw how divisive Last Jedi was. You know, whatever your opinion on Last Jedi is, of course, it's totally fine. I feel like it was. I honestly I liked it. It has some problems, sure, but I feel like, yeah, you know, it's divisive and
it's okay.
yeah, it's fair.
I
That's
hated
fair.
it.
But I feel like even though it wasn't the most loved Star Wars movie ever, that I feel like it was just sort of left in the dust. And when J.J. Abrams was brought in, it feels like he made a sequel to The Force Awakens, but he didn't really feel like you didn't really feel the connecting tissue between The Last Jedi. It feels like it was like, you know, sort of the forgotten child, if you will. It's like we've got two sequels here that don't connect at all. So it feels very weird. It feels like sort of going back on what's already been done in The Last Jedi. So even though, you know, maybe that wasn't everybody's favorite, that I think that should have at least, you know, to keep it consistent, would have, you know, gone in there and perhaps made it even better through, you know, a sequel making something better can happen sometimes. So yeah, so
Yeah. Like if Rise of Skywalker was generally good, the second movie could be more forgiven, even from someone who hates the second movie.
exactly. That yeah, it just really just goes to show too that planning is very important. That sometimes you can work without too much of a plan. Like Breaking Bad, for instance, is they sort of write themselves into corners and figure out ways how to get out of those corners without like too much of like they have overarching plans, of course, but they sort of let the characters decide where the story goes in a sense, and it works out really well. But I think for like Star Wars, for example, like a new trilogy that should have really been planned out, because all of a sudden you just have like, oh yes, Palpatine returned. That was of course the entire plan this whole time, just randomly. So
Yeah,
yeah,
right.
really, really got to plan these things out. If you want to make a trilogy, you got to have some ideas and stuff. You got to have some consistency instead of having two different ideas and stuff. Like it feels like you've got J.J. Abrams and you've got, you know, J.J. Abrams and his writers, and you've got Rian Johnson. So it feels like there's a lot of conflict there, which really ultimately left to such a broken and messy trilogy that could have been something sort of something exciting, but no. So I think that's really important.
Yeah. Force Awakens, I think there were ways to fix the
Yeah.
series, the Star Wars sequels trilogy, and I think there always is a way. You know, I think very few things are irredeemable, and very few things can never be salvaged.
Yeah.
But one thing I think one thing we can all agree on is Selma is shit.
Yeah.
Because if you
I didn't
notice,
watch the
everyone's
show,
pet
but I've seen
peeves.
clips online, and I'm just like, this looks awful. I'm glad I'm not watching it.
Yeah.
I think all of our pet peeves, each and our pet peeves, are in
Exactly.
Velma. No research. It's either no research was done, or they didn't give a shit about the research that they did. You know, they decided to be shocking just for the sake of being shocking, without there being anything more to say or do. And it's just like, what the
Yeah.
fuck?
That's
Like I I watched something where it's just like the Scooby Gang in watching the Velma trailer, and that shit was more entertaining, more meta, more hilarious than the
Right?
actual
Yeah,
fucking
Velma's
show.
like, oh my god, am I really that annoying?
Yes.
When I probably watched the same
And
thing.
I love how Fred was just like, do you know have any idea how hard it is to be the leader of a Mystery Incorporated gang that has 100%, has 100% chance of solving the mystery?
Yeah.
Do you have any effing idea?
Also, no Scooby-Doo.
It's weird.
Like, if they were going to do a Velma show and it was just going to be about Velma, that's one thing. But if it's Velma and the other Scooby gang members are in there, why the hell isn't Scooby in the
It's
show?
so weird.
I have to say, I fucking hate what they did to Fred.
Yeah.
Like, look how they massacred my boy. Like, don't get me wrong. Fred was never the smartest guy in the room. He was never the smartest guy in the room. But what he was he was someone who was
fearless
passionate.
leader.
It's clear he was a guy that you could tell why people let him be the leader.
He had golden retriever
Even though-
energy.
Yes, I love that.
He had golden retriever energy, but he also had respected everyone, and he he seems like the guy who everyone was there to help support, but they were not just. But he also gave off the vibe of someone who, if you needed it, he'd be
Yeah.
your
It's
shoulder.
your older brother that you really want to hang out with.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And that's who Fred was in most of the other series. Even when he didn't have much of a personality, it was still clear that the others liked him.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
But also, like, the best version of Fred, in my opinion, is in Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated.
Exactly. Yeah. Trap
Yeah,
guy.
and we were talking about this not too long ago. Last month, we were in the All Things DC chat, and we were talking.
I was talking.
Yeah, you were
shit.
talking about Velma, and I brought up Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated and said this is the best version of them, in my
Easily.
opinion.
Yeah.
And I also said one of the reasons why it's so great is because Victor Cook, who created the show, co-created Spectacular Spider-Man with Greg Weisman.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't think about that. That's a good point.
Yeah, so I was like, that explains it.
The man himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and me and Lola actually had a whole conversation, and I'm generally, Palmy's just generally thinking about just talking to her. So like, hey, you want to make our own Scooby Doo shit?
Yo, that'd be pretty sweet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. There is a.
Yeah.
Sorry. Go.
For context, real quick, Lola is a writer for both me
Yeah.
and Wiz.
That's just cool.
She's just started writing for me. She's gonna be she wrote one of the episodes for the next season.
Writing. Yeah. She's great.
And then her and I in here was just like talking about it, and it's just like, Velma. In my version, like Velma would be like, Velma, a skeptic who's a great mystery solver, but maybe needs a little bit of help with people.
Yeah,
I mean,
fitting.
let's keep her sassy and sarcastic, but not like so unlikable.
Exactly.
Yeah, like it's okay if she's okay if she's sassy, and I think part of it could be like, hey, maybe you need to just relax a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to me, it's just like, and then you have Daphne, who's moved away from being the
Damsel in distress. That's like, oh.
and
Yeah.
For me, I think she's still like
Yeah.
the heart of the group. And even though she can kick her ass, she just rather wear heels and just be girly. She can do it, she just rather not.
Yeah.
But it's just like this, and that's from again, and that's from barely any research. Just me growing up with like Scooby Doo. I think I have my own version of Fred here somewhere. I also mentioned a good band would be Icon for Hire to do like the Scooby Doo intro for anyone who knows them.
Yeah, I've also got like issues with maybe I'm the only one here because there aren't many fans of this left after the movies kind of pushed them all away. But it's difficult being a Transformers fan nowadays.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like I rewatched some of the movies and I was like, Optimus Prime is so one note
It
in those
really is.
movies. Where like Michael Bay was a fan of like the 80s cartoon, but he took almost nothing from the 80s cartoon. And like the only thing they took was Peter Cullen, who even though his character's one note in the movies, he still does a damn good job voicing
Oh
Optimus.
God,
He's
yeah.
still got
Been
it.
amazing.
The day he dies
Yeah, I die.
is going to break my heart like when Kevin Conroy died. My heart broke that day.
Man.
Yeah, for me, like if we're gonna talk about stuff like that, like celebrities that broke our heart, for me it was Monty Oum when he died.
Yeah.
The creator
Yeah,
of Ruby.
that was sad.
He's probably still the only celebrity. He's still to this day the only celebrity I actively cried when I heard he was dead, and it still makes me cry going through and just thinking about all the stuff he did. And how much he inspired me, and it still
Yeah,
hurts.
Carrie Fisher's death broke my heart.
Dude, yeah, that was rough.
Yeah, my biggest issue with the Transformers movies is that like they focus on the humans and the Transformers are the background characters, and
Yeah.
even with the humans, they're all Michael Bay archetypes. Like Michael Bay has 4 archetypes in those movies. Nebbish teen, wacky adult, girl with hot ass, and patriotic soldiers.
Pretty accurate.
Like they have no other personalities, and there's this great video from Screen Junkies years ago with Nick Mundy. I can't find him anymore. I don't know what happened to him, but he cracked me up. He did this thing where it was like fix the Transformers franchise, where he said give the humans some personality, and he described those 4 things. And at the time Age of Extinction was coming out, he's like, well, we got Mark Wahlberg now. He's like, yeah, we got Boston Dad that lives in Texas. Yeah. And so he just said, give the humans some personality, like Jeff Goldblum from Jurassic Park, or Jeff Goldblum from Independence Day.
Get Jeff Goldblum.
They said, or just make the Transformers movies Pacific Rim meets Independence Day, where it's about giant robots that fight, but they have characters, they have like arcs, like Optimus, like. One thing I felt like the new Cybertron show did a little too much was Optimus doubted himself a little too much in the beginning. I feel like he should doubt himself at times and then grow to be the Optimus Prime we know, but do it in like the first movie, and then like the next movie he is Optimus Prime, and then the third one give to like Rodimus Prime. And like so I'm basically pitching my own Transformers trilogy here. Sorry if I turned it into that.
Hey, if you ever if you ever want to just start your own audio dramas, just do it. And this is just a recommendation from me. I'm not sure if Space Wiz can agree. If you're gonna be like the head of your own audio drama type stuff, please, for the love of God, find an editor.
Yeah.
Find an editor that you can argue with, and you're going to actually take the advice seriously.
Yes, true.
Well, you don't want a bunch of yes men.
How much
you don't want a bunch of yes men. You want people to fight back against you.
Yeah, how much do you agree with that, Space Wiz? How much do you agree with what I just
said?
That
is a good idea. You gotta have some dialogue. You gotta talk it out and stuff. You can't just settle for things. Gotta work through it.
Take notes, George Lucas.
Because I got Lex. Because at the moment, Lex has me, and I call him out on a lot of his mistakes.
I've also talked to you about certain things and said I'm not happy about certain things. So I don't protest you a lot. Normally, I'm in agreement with you on stuff, but I feel like we have a good rapport and we balance each other out. I think, at least.
Yeah.
For me, my biggest editor, my editor is Mayhem Medley. or I call her Eris. She's the one who wrote Livewire,
Oh.
Poison Ivy, Enchantress, and Granny Goodness.
Heck yeah.
Those are the scripts she wrote, and she is not afraid to talk shit
Man.
to my
Wow.
face. Like, her and I get you a VC. Her and I argue half the
Oh, I love it.
time. This thing is shit. No, it's not. Fuck you. Fuck you.
Okay, great talk. I'm glad this worked.
Yes, and it all
That's-
comes together. Yeah,
that's-
exactly.
Basically. And that's the biggest thing, is that if you're going to write something, let other people read it. Don't
Yeah.
just keep it to yourself in general. Because I had this talk with someone at work one day, where he asked me for advice of writing, and I told him one of the biggest things is show it to people, have other people read it, and then give you their thoughts. And that way you're gonna find the right editor for you, because you're not always gonna find the right editor right away. Sometimes it's gonna take a while.
Absolutely. Gotta work around and stuff. Find the right fits. That's someone that really understands you.
So I'm also gonna just do a hot take. I don't think any trope is bad. Any trope is bad.
Mm.
It's all about full-on context before,
Ooh.
during,
So
and after.
execution.
Can I believe fridging? For those of you who don't know, the girl stuck in the refrigerator, it is a trope that is hated by everyone but me. Because I believe in seeing full context, beginning, middle, and after.
Yeah.
That is my biggest thing. And even don't get me wrong, it was a problem. It was a problem in the past where, female characters got killed for the male character, for they'll have some character growth and whatever. Yeah, I get that was a problem. I get the problem with the trope. I'm not idiot. I'm not saying that you should always do it. Hell no. But I'm going to actually defend the original namer of the trope, which is Kyle Rayner's Green Lantern run. So, his girlfriend got stuck in the refrigerator because for context, the main villain found out that Green Lantern was dating this chick. So he goes to this chick and basically said, okay, listen here. Either you tell me and I kill you quick, or you don't tell me and I painfully kill you. What does this chick do? She grabs a knife and tries to stab him.
No.
He's a super villain. It
Yeah.
doesn't work. But after Kyle Rayner finds her in the fridge, the villain straight up says, you have a good woman there. After all, she refused to tell me who you were. Meaning, she didn't talk with shit while her arms and legs were being broken, her spine was being broken, every bit of her was broken. She refused to sell out Kyle Rayner.
Yeah. That's loyalty.
It's definitely loyalty.
Yeah.
With that context, I am perfectly okay with giving it a pass. My biggest problem with the whole thing, was afterwards it felt like they immediately pushed him into flirting with another girl, whereas it's like you should not let that happen. You should have him not want to be with anyone for a while, because that would scare the shit out of most people, especially a new superhero. And I think people need to give us some slack. And people complain that like Barbara Gordon was fridged. No, she wasn't. No, she fucking wasn't. And even if she was, it still ended up with an interesting story. And even though it wasn't planned by Alan Moore, someone took that and created a fascinating character arc for Barbara.
Sure.
If anything, Jim gets put through the fucking ringer in that
true.
story. So where's the justice for Jim Gordon, who suffers the fucking most?
Yeah. So I want to talk about this because this is one of the things Linkara and I heavily disagree on. Most heavily. Because I'm going to call Linkara out on this, because he did a review of the movie. I agree that the first half should not have happened. The way I would have fixed the movie was after she gets shot, Dick Grayson comes by and the two of them talk, and Dick Grayson is there for her during it. And this is how she gets her strength back to become Oracle. That is how I would.
Then she grows to like push everyone else up. That's what I would do.
Yeah. And then my big problem with Linkara's suggestion was his fucking suggestion was, why not just have her get her back fixed and
No.
make her be able to walk again? And it's just like, and then you ruin the whole fucking
Yeah.
point of the story. And he, you know, his whole thing was, she survived her, you know, the worst day. I'm like, no, it would not have been her worst day if it was the day she permanently was unable to walk or fight anymore. It was the day she was forced to retire as Batgirl. That was the worst day, but she kept pushing forward to become Oracle, despite her disability. That is what I want. That is the story I want, but her just suddenly getting fixed in the movie and coming back to kick Joker's ass, sure, it would be fun and all, but I still think that would be the
Yeah.
worst mistake ever.
I agree, yeah, because that really takes her to interesting places, yeah.
So yeah, I'm calling you out and calling you little punk. I'm joking.
On
I'm
the
joking.
podcast and duke it out with us.
Oh my gosh, could you imagine?
Yeah, join the podcast and argue with me. Come over here and argue with me like a real man, boy.
He'll put on his fedora and glasses and he'll go after you.
Ready.
He got a magic gun. Where the hell he got that? Where he got a magic gun? I got a magic bazooka, bitch.
Just kidding. We love you, Linkara.
But no,
we
that's
don't
like-
always agree with you.
Yeah, sometimes you're just stupid.
Trying to get him on
Um,
the show, man.
Yeah.
I want to get him and Sasha on the show. Honestly, I would love to have Sasha on the show. I think she'd be
yeah.
so much fun to have on the show, especially if we talk about like Wonder Woman or something like that. I would love to get her
I
opinion
want to
on
get
everything.
Sal from Comic Pop on here. He does like small YouTube channels sometimes, and I would
Yeah,
love to
sometimes.
like get him on and just like one
Maybe
day.
tomorrow.
One day.
He's cool.
So what about you two? What is a trope that you guys see get a lot of hate that you don't think is that bad?
You want to go first, Space?
Oh, no,
Force?
you got this, yeah.
Okay, I want to say, and I think we talked about it before the show started airing. I talked about that it's okay to punch a problem sometimes. Like maybe not every time. It depends on the story. Like there are times where I'm like, I would like it if we just had a bad guy to punch. Like you can't punch racism or sexism or depression. You can't punch you can't punch poverty. You can't punch car troubles. You can punch your car, but that's not gonna help. But I love the way Puss in Boots basically fights death. He fights for his own mortality. Like in Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Like I like that. It's both symbolic and entertaining. It's a
there you
great
go.
balance of like style and substance, in my opinion. That's one of the reasons why I love it so much. And I also really think Death is just a cool bad guy in that. DreamWorks has always kind of been better at making villains than like Pixar and
Oh,
Disney.
yeah, true.
So Disney has some very iconic villains. Like I love Jafar and Ursula and Captain Hook, but like DreamWorks makes comic book level
They do.
villains,
They really do.
in my opinion. And yeah, I fully think that it is okay to like have an antagonist be behind some stuff and that they can punch the problem. Like with Django Unchained,
Ooh.
like yes, he's dealing with like racism in the South, and this is like before the Civil War and the Emancipation Proclamation. And yes, he's dealing with slavery and racism, which you can't always punch, but he takes out one of the biggest like slave owners and plantation owners, Calvin Candy, who I think is a pretty charming villain, even though his ideology is wrong. He is very like you can take him out and you can like destroy his house, and by the end of the movie, Django, like he basically made the first step to like solving the solution. Now, I'm not saying you can always shoot the problem, but like the immediate threats like them that will like kill you for looking at them the wrong way, and he like deals with them. I think that's great, and I love it. I'm fine with like sometimes you just punch or shoot or stab the problem. Like there's also just some like horror movies where you can't like, I don't think I've seen this anywhere, but I'm pretty sure they have like tried to appeal to like spirit or ghost humanity in some horror movies. It just won't work. Like you can't kill a ghost or an evil ghost with kindness. Find some sort of fucking cross or like thing that will like kill it. I'm fine with like a big climactic fight sometimes. Like I'm even fine with it in the first Wonder Woman movie where uh she doesn't really grow that much, but I also think Wonder Woman is also she grows but she also doesn't.
Yeah.
That's a different discussion for another day, but she
Yeah, when we get Sasha in here, we're
Ooh.
definitely talking
yeah.
about Wonder Woman.
I do love the movie,
That's a good
but
movie.
like it's got its problems.
Yeah.
First
The first movie. The
Yeah.
first
Yeah,
movie,
I'm
not
not
the
gonna get
second.
into that
Fuck the
part,
second.
but I'm fine with her like punching Ares.
Yeah.
Like I don't think like don't have a problem with her punching Ares. Like I don't have a problem with Aquaman fighting Ocean Master at the end of the movie. Like I think that we needed that. I think that was necessary. Like I am fine with a big punchy battle at the
Yeah,
end.
it's fun.
Like Endgame, like if they just talked out their discussions in Endgame, that would be boring. Like just like Thanos and Iron Man sitting at a
Oh man, we
desk
gotta talk
talking.
about this
That
whole
would
universe
be
thing. Yeah.
that would not be what I would do.
No.
That I think that's boring and dumb. Like there are times where it's overplayed, where it's like, and here it comes. But sometimes it's got to be done in a way where it's like, you have to do this. Like if you didn't do this, then it would be a disservice.
Yeah.
But so yes, but
Because it doesn't make sense for some cases. Like Thanos would not be willing to
yeah.
talk it out.
you could try to reason with him, and you'd have an interesting conversation while fighting him. But that's a different thing.
Yeah.
But
It's just
yeah, that's my.
What about you, Space Wiz? What's your overhated trope? What's a trope that you love, or you don't mind so much, but everyone hates?
Before I do that, yeah, to go to Lex's point, yeah, that's yeah, I think like a big climactic fight is really fun and entertaining for the audience. So, and it feels like it all builds up to that. So I think it's totally cool to have that. Sometimes they don't have it as much. That I kind of like the
Hell, in 2001: A Space Odyssey, they take down Hal.
yeah, there you go, yeah, exactly. So yeah, so it's a sort of a fun fun way to end off a story, climactically. So I think it's great, sort of something fun to really get you energized and really root for the hero and stuff like that. That can be done in different ways too, like sort of like the battle of wits between Sherlock Holmes and James Moriarty and stuff like that. It's not necessarily like a necessarily like a fist fight or anything. That's like a battle of intellect, which is cool. But yeah, I think big final fight is always fun.
Yeah.
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 But yeah, the trope that I really like that I think of course all these tropes. I think everything in moderation. That you can overuse tropes and sometimes maybe that does happen. But I like dream sequences. I think dream sequences are cool. They don't always fit in everything, but I think a dream sequence can do a lot of interesting things. Can really give you a look into the mind of the character, like what their worries are and stuff, what's going through their head, their subconscious and stuff like that. To really understand where they're at and stuff like that, and their deepest fears or whatever whatever makes them happy or something. I think a dream sequence can really reveal a lot of stuff and could be an interesting way to do a variety of different things. Like you can do, if you have a character that you've already seen their origin story a million times and you want to breeze through their origin story, you could have their origin story as a dream. Like Peter can be haunted by Uncle Ben's death in his dreams, so you don't have to just like start off the movie with that. But Peter hears Uncle Ben every time he goes to sleep or whatever. So his death or whatever, he sees his death. So I think dream sequences can subvent and still give the audience an idea of what an origin story is, so you don't have to see it a million times for some of these characters. So I think that is a good thing with dream sequences and other stuff too. Like I said, revealing more about the character in a pretty fast way that can be memorable and can be trippy and really cool stylistically. So I think dream sequences are cool.
And for me, in general, tropes are one of those things where if you realize you're doing a trope, look it up. Look up the trope if you think you're doing it, and then look up what people hate about it and understand why people hate about it. For example, in one of my own original series, I have a character who got her tongue ripped out by her evil brother. So I looked up the trope, and most people have a problem with like the male hero is the one who avenges her instead of her doing it. So in my story, yeah, she does kick the ass of her brother. You know, the male main character ends up helping by distracting him. But at the end of the day, it's her who kicks his ass.
Turn tropes on their heads and make something really fresh and new. That's one of the things. Speaking of sitcoms, research. Exactly. Yeah, Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yeah.
Exactly. Do the research.
Research.
Brooklyn Nine-Nine's got some great humor, really. Common sayings and like ways you think jokes will go are like turned on their head, and it really makes it even more fun and entertaining. Like sort of reinvents jokes or like classic setups and stuff like that for unexpected laughs. So I think that's a good thing to keep in mind, that if it's a trope that's been done to death, then do the flip side of it, or just modify it, and then maybe that will be the modification will be done to death. So it's sort of like a pendulum; it keeps on swinging back and forth. The original take on the trope is now refreshing after seeing so many of the same reinventions. So it's sort of gotta see where things go, I guess.
If you guys don't mind, there is actually someone I do want to actively call out on the bullshit. No, it is the Dire Judgment channel. They did the video on Lily's writing tips and some bad writing tips. Those are good, and the actual writing tips are good. I add research as a writing tip, being the number one rule. Above all else, research. But what I don't like is some of the arguments he's tried to have with people, where his whole argument is, well, you don't like this, but you like this, where they basically did the same thing, and he points out what they did similarly, and it's just like, no. We like A because of the way it was done, not because what was done. And then I look into his comment section, and someone made the same argument against Birds of Prey that I did.
What?
And you know what? How he responded?
Oh my god!
With a fucking nerd emoji.
Oh.
That's not an argument. You're not making any fucking point. You're not disagreeing with them. You're not giving your side of the take. You're basically saying, and part of it is coming to professional writers. If you're professional, I really would like to see your credits. Because from what I can tell, I have not seen shit that you've done that professional. Unless you're ghostwriting for stuff, and if you're ghostwriting, then there's no way to prove or disprove any of your claims. So,
yeah,
I don't know. And again, I have my own writing on YouTube. Feel free to come at me. If anyone wants to try to come at me for my writing, go right ahead. Criticize it. It's right there, right in the open. I'll soak up the good criticism. If your criticism is bullshit, I'm going to ignore it.
Yeah, there you go.
But I will soak up the good one. Good criticism.
That's a good,
and learn to grow. And
Yeah.
Because this characters being manipulative is not always good. It's about how it's done. For example, like Maki from Chainsaw Man is a good example of a manipulative villain. But the chick, I forget what her name is, the chick that manipulates Skeletor in the new He-Man thing, that was not well done. I only watched a little bit of it.
Yeah,
I don't
me
have
too,
any
so-
nostalgia.
Neither
for
do
He-Man.
I. I never
I
saw
still
yes.
thought I still thought it was shit.
it.
But and again, it's all
Yeah.
about execution. It's all about how
The
it's done.
execution.
Because again, you can have two characters to do the exact same thing, but one would be better
Yeah.
because of how it's done. And you know, I know some of the stuff he claims is well written. I think is arguable at best. And his big tip is just like watch more movies. Watch more watch stuff outside of the medium you usually watch, which for me is anime or manga. Of course I do more stuff than that. I read comics, I watch cartoons, I watch live action movies. Hell, I'm gonna be watching the 2010
There you go,
Wolfman
yeah.
movie at some point. I read, I watch, I do so much. I have a fandom in just about a lot of things. But at the end of the day, yeah, you should. If you want to be a good writer, yeah, you need to get that experience of watching things, but you also need to learn how to be very critical about everything, about it, and understand why something works. I know. That's just me calling someone out.
Yeah. Well, earlier, like we were saying about like tropes and doing unique things with them, like some comedy bits or a very well-known trope that you could just turn on its head. Like I've never seen this movie, but I've seen a
Yeah.
clip of it. It's like Galaxy
Oh,
Quest,
yeah.
and it's like the one where they're disarm the bomb with the timer. Disarm the bomb, but the timer still goes and runs to 0. And you're like, oh my gosh, we failed! Oh, the clock was just running.
Love it. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
In the show, I saw a little bit of the show. I never watched the full show. I heard it got better, but it was from the guys that made Phineas and Ferb, Milo
Oh, yeah,
Murphy's
that's a
Law.
fun one. Yeah.
There's one joke that like cracked me up so much. It was so like stuff happens during a football game, and Milo ends up getting buried beneath a bunch of dirt and rubble, even though they like help them like win the game because of Murphy's Law with him. And so they're like, "Hey Milo, are you okay?" And so he gives a thumb. It appears to give a thumbs up out of the dirt, and then he says, "I think I sprained my thumb."
Oh, I love it.
Like I think it's silly, but I
So
love
so
it.
unexpected.
It's silly, but I
Yeah,
love it
funny.
because I just it what you think is him saying he's okay is just like I think I sprained my thumb.
I can't move my thumb at the moment.
I don't know. I think it's
That is-
funny.
Yeah, and everything's about at the end of the day, everything's about
Yes.
execution. Execution. You can make a dumb there's a fucking manga called Rooster Fight, and everyone fucking loves it because of just how hardcore it is. It goes harder than it needs to be, and because of that, it's funny as hell, and people love it. Although personally, I would call it a cockfight because I think that would be funnier. But you have series that one of the biggest things I think anyone who wants to be a writer and in general needs to learn is that not everything you like is well written.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it's bad. It does not mean it's bad.
Yeah.
It's just not well written. I mentioned Ruby before. For me, that's Ruby. Ruby has so much charm to it in the first 2 seasons. I remember I went back to watch one episode because I was thinking about participating in a competition of doing an animatic for like a talking head scene. For those who don't know, talking head scene is basically when two or more characters talk. And that's the scene. I was going to enter that contest. So I watched that one episode. I ended up binge watching the rest of Ruby up to the end of season 2 because I was just like, oh my god, this is so much fun. It's not well written. I won't say it's well written. It is fun, and it's it's written well enough to be fun. But it's fun. It's not the best thing in the world, nor do I think it's trying to be the best
Entertaining
in
and
the
fun, yeah.
world. And yeah, because the characters were fun, which
Yeah.
is what I'm there for.
Absolutely, yeah. That's you don't have to write the most most mind-bending, astute thing in the world. You know, if you write something that's fun, then hey, you know, that's what counts. You know, if people enjoy it, then hey, there you go.
Yeah, don't just, and for me, just as a person, don't just write something that you think you'd enjoy. Yes, write something that you enjoy yourself,
Yeah.
but write something that other people
Want
will
to have an audience,
enjoy.
you don't just want to be an audience of one.
Yeah. And that doesn't mean like completely bending everything you love to your will. No, have your own
Yeah.
style. Have your own style. Have your own way of doing it. Have fun. But at the same time, understand that there are going to be other
Yeah.
readers
Exactly.
out there.
Yeah.
But yeah. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about? Anyone you guys want to call out? Anyone you want to start beef with?
I can't really think at the. Actually, there is like a thing. Don't confuse edginess with
Ah, yeah,
maturity.
yeah, yeah.
I like that's the thing.
Yes.
Like, so I haven't watched the show, but I saw a trailer for it, and I was just like, "This looks awful," and everyone told me it was awful. It was like a Netflix show called Hoops. It stars Jake Johnson. It's a animated show, and the animation looks like Rick and Morty because you know that's apparently the cheapest animation literally anyone can do. And so because they're like, this is our adult show, and they just like swear and this and that, and like it's just like, ugh, this is so like over the top and just like unnecessary. Like, or even like Game of Thrones. Like Game of Thrones, I watched the first season. I couldn't do it any longer. Once they started killing babies, I was like, nope, can't do that. I can't do it because I think babies are too adorable and just get a baby near me. I want to hug it. They'll probably hit me with a purse, and fair enough. But but so I just think the problem with it is just like, you know, there's like sex and violence and blood and decapitation, but it's all just to be overly edgy and
Yeah.
mature, where it's just like, see what we could do on TV. And it's just, I don't know, that's the vibe I always got from like Game of Thrones, where I think it's a little too Hollywood-esque and just think it's just so it's so gratuitous. I think it's like something where I think it's done right, and maybe one or two instances it might be a little overdone, but it's kind of awesome. Is The
Ah, yeah.
Boys? The Boys is edginess, like The Boys TV show. Is edginess with purpose. Edginess with purpose is key. Hell, Invincible does edginess with purpose. Like I think a good thing of like mature storytelling is talking about something where it's like it feels real. Like you brought up Spider-Man 2, I think around
Yeah.
the beginning you said it's one of your inspirations. Spider-Man 2 is a mature story because of its nature about talking about real things where it's like, can you be there for someone in a relationship, having money issues, of constantly like finding a job, and like they take the approach of like, hey, here's the cool stuff about being a superhero, but here's also the downside of
Yeah.
being a superhero. Like, because Spidey succeeds, Peter Parker fails. As a person, he can't do life. Like, he can't be there for people. He can't support people. He's considered lazy and irresponsible, not because like he's like a person that has like no motivation or anything like that. Like, he is capable of doing it and he would do it. It's just the problem is Spider-Man gets in the way.
Yeah.
I remember Dan Slott saying this thing where he's like, Peter Parker is Spider-Man's enemy, and I'm like, no, It's the other way around, Dan. Spider-Man is Peter Parker's worst
Exactly.
enemy because Peter tries to live a life, but Spider-Man comes knocking on the door. And even in like the Spider-Man 2 movie, now I will say I do love that movie. It's not my favorite Spider-Man movie of
Yeah,
all time because I just think the relationship with him and Mary Jane is
that's
slightly
fair.
weird,
Yeah.
and I think their chemistry is not as great as the first one because they were dating in the first one in real life, the
Mhm.
actors. But anyway, I think the one of the great things about Spider-Man 1 is like he quits. He genuinely quits, and I remember rewatching the movie after years and genuinely shedding a tear when he tells Uncle Ben, "I'm
Ooh,
Spider-Man no
yeah.
more." Because it was kind of like a, even though it's, his uncle, it's like a grandfather grandson relationship the way I looked at it because I was very close with my grandfather, and
Oh,
it hit
yeah.
me hard. And he does, and Peter quits because he wants to be with Mary Jane. And when he quits, he's happy, seemingly. And then a burning building happens, and he tries to help save a person. But the big issue is like he couldn't do it because he didn't want to be Spider-Man anymore, and his body was telling him that he couldn't be Spider-Man anymore. But deep down in his soul, he knew he had to be
Yeah.
Spider-Man. Like there's always going to be a part of him, even if your powers go away, even if the world is telling you no. Like there will be a part of you that still wants to do it, and you feel bad. And I know there's some people that are like, "Oh, he's being such a crybaby when he says, 'Am I not allowed to have what I want?'" I'm like, "No, of course. Like, I get it because we all have those moments. Some people think he's being too much of a crybaby in those movies. I'm like, I think it's over exaggerated because it shows the difficulty of being a superhero and having a life. And that's the gold of Spider-Man. People will say Superman is overrated. People will say Batman is overrated. Some people may not say Spider-Man's their favorite, but everyone likes Spider-Man. If they don't love them, they at least like him. Because Spider-Man is just that lightning in a bottle character that is so relatable. It's a character that's so relatable. And that's another thing that I love. I love relatable
Yeah.
characters. And it's okay to do some characters that are a little out there and you might have a hard time connecting, but maybe the theming can be relatable. Not necessarily the character, but like the theming can be relatable.
For me personally, if we're going to talk about relatability and stuff like that, personally, it's one of the reasons why I love DC more than Marvel is that I don't want my superheroes to be
Get that.
relatable in a weird way. I want them to show me a better way of doing something.
Well, I want both ways. I think with certain
Because
characters it works, certain
Yeah. All
characters
of
it doesn't
context
work.
and stuff. Yeah.
yeah, like for me, like one of the reasons why Batman's one of my favorite characters is growing up I had a very short temper all the time, and Batman kind of showed me that it's okay to be angry, but you got to talk it
Yeah.
right. You can't just snap at everyone. You can't just lose control whenever you want. And that's something I learned from Batman going through his shit. And I learned stuff from Aquaman too. I mentioned before that I ended up becoming the man I am now because Aquaman
Yeah.
sacrificed his own hand to save his child. And to me, to this day, if I cut off my right hand, if it meant saving someone's life and making sure that they live a happy life, I would do it. I would sacrifice my hand to save someone. I would sacrifice my body to save someone. And it's not one of those things where it's just me saying it. I've done it. I still remember, I thought there was a fire in the building I was in. I remember one person was limping because they couldn't really walk because their foot was crushed and they just had surgery. I ran over to where he was. I didn't run towards the exit. Fuck that. Everyone else can run towards the exit. That one guy needs my help. And I rushed towards it thinking there was a fire. And in my head, I'm thinking, if there's fire, I'm going to try to jump over it And if there's fire near him, I'm going to try to go to where he is, lift him up on my shoulders, and carry him
There you
out
go. Yeah.
if I have to. And
That's good.
luckily, I found out it was a fire drill. Everyone was safe. I did not know that when it happened. When I heard the
Yeah, there
fire
you
alarm,
go.
my first thought was I gotta save this fucker.
Yeah.
That was my first thought, and that's because of the superheroes I grew up with like Superman, and admittedly even Spider-Man to a certain extent, but like Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Flash, everyone goes out of the way to save someone, especially Aquaman is just, like, you can physically show that he gave up something in order to protect someone else. And to this day, even if I hate you, I still prioritize your life. I'm not just going to leave you there drowning, even if I completely hate you as a person.
Yeah, I agree. I agree on that. Like Batman, I use as my approach to life. Like, I don't go out of my way to like wear a costume or anything like that, even though I would really like one. But I try to think of life as I try
It's the control.
to think life as sacred. And I have those moments where I'm like, I don't care about this person, but at the end of the day, like I have not gone into a scenario where someone will need my help that might be in danger. I've not gone through that scenario. I guess I'm fortunate, but if the time comes, I want to be that person. I want to be the Batman in that situation. If something calls for it and I need to do it, I'll do it. But hopefully I didn't go on too long with my.
No, that was amazing.
Spider-Man
I'm all
2
here
thing.
for it. Yeah.
Oh no, everyone's allowed to go on their rant. Everyone's allowed to rant
Alright.
this episode. Oh my god,
Yeah.
this is the longest podcast
Love it.
we've ever made.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so I think this is a good spot to like just generally
the
end
final
it.
points.
But I just want to point out that it's just in general the reason why I love Batman so much is because Batman is all about controlling oneself. He's all about making sure that you don't, making sure that your emotions don't get out of control to the point where you end up hurting the people around you. And this is also part of the thing I learned from my father is that if you're a man and you need to cry, go in the shower, let it all out, cry to your heart's content, scream all you want. So that way, when you come out, you can either fix the problem or you can be there for those who need you. But with that, we're going to end the podcast.
It's been fun.
And so
Goodbye.
everyone go ahead and say goodbye.
I want to make one thing perfectly clear to our audience listening out there. If you're working on a project and you are writing, just know your script is the foundation to everything. If your script and story doesn't work, everything else falls. Like, here's the thing with like Invincible, like the show. The writing is great. The voice acting is great. Animation leaves a little to be desired. They increase the frame rate during some certain action sequences, which is nice. But I will take good writing and good voice acting over shitty animation any day of the week. I'm sure that's a big thing that happens in anime a lot. Like, not great animation, but great writing and voice acting. So that's what I just want to put out there. Script needs to work. If it doesn't work, everything else falls. This house of cards will tumble before you if you take that bottom piece out.
Yep. And with that, we are going to officially end this. Anyone who's listening to this, don't take anything anyone I was talking shit about seriously. Just don't attack anyone I mentioned because some things just generally just annoy me and I just want to let it out. Yeah. And this is like the perfect time to do it. But generally, if you have a project that you want to do it, but make sure you have a team around you who are not yes men. That's the worst thing you can have is yes men. Because if you have nothing but yes men, then it's how you get the Star Wars prequels. With that being said, Have a wonderful day.
Bye.
Fuck off.
Bye.